Did you have a good weekend? Did you? Oh my word, I did. I had a very restful weekend. You know, the weekend for some people is still ongoing. If you're still lying by the beach somewhere, how are you doing? The weekend was a wash, at least in this part of the world, with conversations around money and greed and how some people print money. Have you seen that online? It's still ongoing. I've seen a lot of that on Twitter. Um, there's been a lot of talk about how a particular set of young people, especially, are given to unprocessed money, as my friend calls them, and they want big money very quickly. And so I thought to start us off, we could speak a little about money. Yes? You know, when I was growing up, I was always very curious about my family tree. So every time I'd find my mother by herself, maybe just in a good mood, I'd say, Mommy, in our family, you don't have a rich uncle, like super wealthy uncle. And then she'd turn and look at me and say, Why don't you work hard in school and become wealthy? And I tried that maybe 3, 4 times, and the answer was in fact, the older I became, the more stern she became. She said, You see the way you're slacking? Look at your papers. You're slacking, especially in X, Y, and Z. Why don't you improve on those? And maybe you could be our rich uncle. Couldn't you, Eric? And I'd get really upset. This is Eric Stories, and my name is Eric, by the way. If it's your first time here, feel most welcome. So, about 6 years ago, I had a bit of a strenuous feelings about the things I was doing in Kenya, and I chose economically, and I chose to move to South Africa. So I left, and because I'd worked in Johannesburg before, and I sort of understood how things work in Jozi. I wanted a different, totally new place. So I moved to Cape Town. And so while in Cape Town, because as it's often is in a new country, I was mostly alone. I don't mind being alone, but I found myself to be more pensive and to be more reflective. And so I had a Bible with me. So I found myself, my family is Catholic, so we are not, you wouldn't say we are those bariki chai, bariki chai. We weren't brought up like that. I mean, we were still are Christians, but we were not very dramatic. But in a younger age, maybe in my mid teens, actually earlier, maybe I remember when I was about maybe 11, I started toying around with seeing what was at the other side of the fence. So I would go to the Protestant churches after school. Then my mother was living in Nakuru, so I would go to the Wilfred Lies Crusade and Reinhard Bonke Crusade, and somebody else came in Nakuru. What's his name? Some famous big preacher, Benny Hinn, at Afraha Stadium, and I went, and I was always fascinated by how they worshipped. They were very like that, you know. And so I was always wondering if all there is, the very monotony of sameness that I had experienced in my church growing up. And so I was curious. I was very curious growing up. So fast forward 6 years ago, I'm in Cape Town. I had long commutes, and sometimes I'd go to the public library to read when I had a spare hour and I had to meet somebody. And so I'd open my Bible and read, not read it from a religious, oh God help me place, just from a, what's this thing about? That's when I really came in contact with, reading the Bible. So I was just like, is there a story about me in here? So I started to read, and boy, isn't the Bible interesting if you haven't. So there's stories about Abraham and how he paid tithe to the priest of Melchizedek. Then there's a story of Esther, Mordecai, and Haman, sorry. Then further down, there's a drama with David, the king, second king of Israel, and how he had a monstrous appetite for sex and how he impregnated people, Heta and Titha, and even slept with somebody else's wife, Uriah's wife. And then you see another drama with David's children, Absalom, who even slept with David's wives on top of the roof. It's crazy. I mean, I don't think there is a series in Hollywood that has done a better job in terms of drama than The Good Book. You should read it. Fascinating stuff. And so in growing up still, at the back of my mind, there was always the question about money and riches and, oh my goodness, I hope I'm not average. I don't want to be average. I would love to go to London, have coffee, dash for a meeting in New York, and come back to my family. I still am going to do that, right? And so I became more curious as I was growing older. So I read books like, remember the famous Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. I think he did another one called The Cash Flow Quadrant. And then later in life, I read David Bart's Automatic Millionaire. And then later I read The Richest Man in Babylon, Clarkson Samuel. And so all my reading was, I want to know what money is about so that I can make money and so that I come out of debts and so that I become wealthy. But let me tell you, in all of my readings, and I've been blessed, one time in the past I was living in Los Angeles, I got to know a family that was so wealthy. I think that is the first time I ever came in contact with a wealth. You know, wealth, not opulence, the Nigerian ones who, oh, drink my money. No. Wealth, like generational, like they've been rich for like 300 years. Wealthy. And so when I'm confronted with someone like that, and he was a pleasant chap, so I started asking questions, about him, about what he did. He was an executive producer. He still is in Hollywood. And I started asking him about money, and he had some tidbits of advice here and there. Of course, nothing revelatory, but he'd tell me about bits and pieces about how he acquired his wealth, most of which from inheritance, from a great grandfather. I mean, this guy took me to his wine cellar at the basement of his house, and he had wines that are not opened, some as old as 380 years old, that were passed over to him. So that kind of wealth. He was telling me if you were to auction, well, he wasn't telling me, somebody else was, that if they were to auction the wine alone, it would be millions of dollars. Anyway, so still, out of curiosity, I'm looking around and thinking and asking questions. And when I find a symposium around money, I attend, especially in my travels. But I can say hands down, whether you're religious or not, the Bible is an excellent financial advisor. And so today, as a Monday, I want us to have a quick chat around money and some of my findings in the Bible about money, which maybe can stop you from picking up a machine to try and wash to get rich very quickly. You know, it's fascinating that money and possessions are the second most referenced topics in the Bible. Money is mentioned well in over 2,000 plus verses. Second in the Bible, the most talked about topic in the Bible after the kingdom of God is money and possessions. Can you believe that? So money is really important, at least to God. And he wants us to know something about money. So some scriptures I put together that can help. And of course, you can go read those other books I've mentioned. But the Bible takes the cookie for me. Proverbs 13:11 says thus, dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. And I've read a lot of commentaries around this, and somebody said something poignant. He said that God is more interested in our character than accomplishments, so that if you're given money too quick and you cannot handle it because you have poor character, it's an exercise in futility. Luke 12:15. Then he said to them, this is the Christ speaking, watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Proverbs 12:11. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense, aka they are foolish. Proverbs 14:29. He who is impulsive exalts folly. Somebody who is prodigal with money exalts folly. Right? Proverbs 20:17. Stolen bread or bread gained by deceit tastes sweet to a man, but afterwards his mouth will be filled with gravel. Kokoto. That's what's happening there. It's sweet in the beginning, then later it breaks your teeth. Ecclesiastes 5:10. Whosoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. All of this is meaningless. Hebrew 13:5. Keep your lives free from the love of money. All right? And be content with what you have. Because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Luke 3:14. Don't extort money and don't accuse people falsely. Be content with your pay. That 8,500, which is your take home, be content. Don't do schemes in the office. Timothy 1:6-10. The love of money, this one is famous, is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Psalm 62:10. If riches increase, do not set your heart on them. Proverbs 19:23. The fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rests content, untouched by trouble. Proverbs 15:27. He who is greedy for gain troubles his own house. All right? You've read stories about somebody doing some dubious deal and then their brother is shot because maybe they were a witness. But he who hates bribe lives. I'll want to close with this one. I find it very profound. This is Solomon speaking about, rather advising, or a teacher that is talked about in the book of Proverbs. And he says, my son, if sinful men entice you, do not give in to them. If they say, come along with us, let's lie in wait for innocent blood. Let's ambush some harmless soul. Let's swallow them alive like the grave and whole like those who go down to the pit. What should you do, my son? All right. And then they continue to tell you, we will get all sorts of valuable things and fill our houses with plunder. Cast lot with us, come, they say. We will share the loot with you. This is the advice to this son. Do not go along with them. Do not set foot on their path. For their feet rush into evil. They are swift to shed blood. These men lie in wait for their own blood. They ambush only themselves. Such are the paths of those who go after ill-gotten gains. It takes away the life of those who get it. Ill-gotten gains takes away the life of those who get it. And somebody's sitting and saying, but, there's no way to make money. It's tough. You just got to do what you got to do. No, there's another way. You can be honest. And you can just do your thing. You can do your thing. However small it grows. Remember the first one, for money gathers little by little grows? And sometimes you're thinking, oh my God, I'm so afraid. I was also very fascinated to learn in my reading of the Bible that fear not in the Bible appears 365 times in the Bible. Fear not, fear not, fear not is recorded 365 times. So maybe just as a reminder that every day is sort of taken care of and we shouldn't be afraid. Yeah, those are some of my findings as it pertains to money. Maybe you've read them. Give them a thought. They can prevent you from a lot of wahala, needless wahala. What do you think? Good evening. Speak soon. Happy Monday and Happy New Week.